Peter Kubra, Counselor Nicole Rogers, Rachel Biggs. Thank you again for being on. Let's jump right into it, though. You three have seen Jeff's interview with City Attorney Lauren Keefe, and our audience just saw it too. Peter, I'll start with you. I'm curious about your reaction to how Ms. Keefe characterized the city's policies and overall approach to unhoused folks. Does it match what you're seeing?
Not at all. Two things. I went this morning onto the city's own website. They have a homelessness dashboard. Any of you can look at it. And they acknowledged that there were 1,111, quote, actions on illegal encampments in the month of June alone. Now, 2 years ago, when this controversy really came to a head, the mayor said publicly that there had been 200 in the year 2022. And their own statistics from January claimed 800 in January of 2024. And their own statistics say 1,111 in June alone. They haven't published the July statistics, but as with Councillor Rogers, we hold monthly stakeholder meetings among people who are unhoused and their advocates. 100% of the people say they have observed a vast increase since the Grants Pass decision. So Councillor Rogers' view is the same as every other person I know who works on behalf of unhoused people. The other aspect that I am seeing as clear evidence that what's been represented is not accurate is that I spent last Thursday at the Bernalillo County Metropolitan Detention Center, the jail, and I was told by the mental health staff there that their census at that jail has gone up 300 people in 2024 from the beginning through last week, that there are now 891 people on the mental health caseload as of last week, and there were 600 in December, and that their understanding of who their own patients are is largely homeless people, many of whom are charged with petty offenses by the Albuquerque Police Department and booked on those. And so I would refute what the city said and ask them to show us some statistics to back up their story.
Now, Rachel, I want to go to you next. Last month, the Albuquerque Human Rights Board tried to compile some statistics themselves, and they published a draft report analyzing the city's handling of homeless people in the city. A draft of that report equates the city's no-notice encampment policy closures to theft and actually accuses some city employees of committing crimes against unhoused folks. What was your organization's reaction to that report, and did you find it accurate?
I think it's hard when we see reports with anecdotes, and certainly we hear these stories every day from our clients. And as I referenced earlier in our interview, we've been hearing these statements for years, and certainly we see trends where things increase and decrease, and we're seeing some of those trends, but we don't have the data here at Healthcare for the Homeless to substantiate it. And so what we're doing, because we always want to see the evidence to support the stories, I think that shows the bigger picture. We want both together to show both are important. We started an incident reporting system where we're collecting these kind of incidents that are happening so that we can actually batch and trend what we're seeing on the street and be able to report in a more consistent manner and have the data to substantiate all the stories that we hear. But certainly we hear from our clients' stories every day. I think the biggest thing we hear is a lot of confusion. People are really confused about, what's the policy today? What's in place? Is there storage? Do I have notice? And so as advocates and our role to work with our clients and uphold their rights, just asking the questions as much as we can. What's the status today? What's the policy? Trying to get that information out to our clients. But people are on the street just trying to survive right now. And it's a really intense environment. And the language and the rhetoric is what we're most concerned about. The polarization of the issues, I think, creates a really dangerous environment for folks living on the street. I referenced our mortality data. People being violently victimized while living on the street, we know 25 times more likely than someone that's housed. And so we're really concerned about just the rhetoric that's coming out from the responses that we're seeing.
Okay. Councilor Rogers, I wanted to ask you quickly about that report as well. The Keller administration has said that they're not too happy with it, and they've accused it of being inaccurate in some ways. What was your reaction to the report? And I guess personally, but also from a council perspective, is City Council taking this report seriously too?
Well, I think for me personally, I think I don't ever want to these are people's stories. These are people who shared their truth with us. And we can dismiss it all we want, but it's real for folks who are living in out in the heat and the cold day after day. And so I would absolutely never want to refute somebody's or say somebody's story is not truthful. I think for me, we should listen to those openly and really hear what they're saying and try to align our systems to help the most vulnerable in our community. And I think that's the difference. And I think in terms of what numbers are accurate or what numbers aren't accurate, I go off what people say. And we heard from Mayor Keller in the governor's public safety town hall that the city averages about 2,000 encampment clearies a month. He said it in front of the world. You can run the tape back. So I think from what people, and I think that is accurate because I see it in my district, and I stop at encampments operations often to just stop and observe and see. And then after they're cleared, I go talk to the people and say, were you offered a bed somewhere? Were you offered shelter? And majority of the time, I'm told no, I was not. If they were offered a bed, it's at the West Side Shelter, and they've already had experiences that say, I don't want to go back to the West Side Shelter. So they do decline that. And so that is what I'm trying to work with administration on. And I think they're definitely open to all suggestions right now because we have to have a better response, and we have to help folks. And as far as counsel, my role as a counselor in this, we have counselors on our team that some get it and some understand and others don't because they don't have the lived experience of, and that's not to say that they're not well intended, right, or don't want to help, but it's just life experience. You see the world differently, and some counselors expect that you should call our youth, our housing, homelessness, and housing department and be able to get help right away, and that's not the case. That's not the case. And I think to Rachel's point, as I'm trying to advocate and also educate community, I'm confused on what the process is sometimes. And okay, what are we doing this week? And who's on the encampment team? Who's not on the encampment team? I assumed ACS was on the encampment team. I just learned they're not. They want to make sure that they are not in the enforcement game because they're trying to build relationships with the folks out, our unsheltered folks, and take a hard stance on enforcement. So there's a lot of questions, but I know one thing, we've all got to get on the same page. It's not just the city's responsibility, but we have to look at our own processes, especially with funding and where it goes, and making sure we're more efficient with our processes so our providers like Healthcare for the Homeless and others can do the hard work. And we have to get better.
Understood. Now, as far as being all on the same page, like you were saying, I want to end there, and I'll give all three of you an opportunity to answer this in some way. It seems like a lot of the entities that are tasked with finding solutions to these problems have created some sort of an adversarial relationship, whether it's the governor and nonprofits, or the mayor and nonprofits, or advocacy, the legal community where you're from, Peter. How do we cut through that and get to a more collaborative environment so that we can actually start working towards real solutions? And I'll start with you, Peter.
Thanks. I'm working with a number of legislators, with county commissioners, and with city councilors, all toward one goal, which is to create for people who have psychiatric conditions, substance use disorders, brain injuries, who are unhoused, a program like the Developmental Disabilities Waiver Program for people with intellectual disabilities. Those 6,800 people are being well served in group homes and family support. And we're going to try and focus on a solution. Let's give some permanent supportive housing to the thousands of people who are unhoused because of their disorders and their poverty combined, and treat them the way that we're treating people with developmental disabilities in a kind, compassionate system that the federal government pays 74% of the cost.
Rachel, how about to you? In a general sense, how do we reach a situation where there can be more collaboration between all of these groups that are essentially working towards the same goals.
We have great examples, and we have great examples in our own city's history as well. So, structural problems like homelessness require structural solutions, and those are hard solutions, but it starts with focusing on housing as the main structural solution. And we did this with Heading Home initiative decades ago now at this point. So under a previous administration, really putting the resources towards what Peter is talking about, permanent supportive housing. We have those systems in place. We just haven't brought them to scale. And we've seen when this works in other places, like in Houston, they've had a 63% decrease in homelessness since 2012. They've housed more than 30,000 people because they have just what you're asking for. People all on the same page working towards a shared aim. And they all agreed there to focus on housing first and the principles of housing first and permanent supportive housing, and ensuring that every provider, every entity is working within their niche and asking those hard questions of each other, saying, what are you going to specialize in? How do we all get on the same page of the same shared aim? And really making those hard decisions to say, we don't need to go from street to shelter or transitional housing into housing. We can go straight from the street to housing, and a coordinated pipeline of us all working together to achieve the same goal of street to housing, permanent supportive housing, permanent housing for folks. That's where we're really going to see the impact. And if we would have, been doing this, that high level impact, we would have seen this have dividends right now. We would have been exponentially further along than we are right now. We just broke ground on a housing development. We're at 66 flats yesterday. We didn't spend time talking about how hard it is to develop housing. I think we need to move past that. We need to just get to work and focus on the solutions that we know have impact. We have the data and the evidence to show it. Like I said, we have our own Heading Home cost study here from 2016 that shows this works. It has cost savings. It has real impact. And so if we can get everyone on the same page towards that shared aim and have the leadership, really, I think it's the public sector leadership that we need to get us to reaching those goals. The nonprofits are an important part of the solution, but we're really cogs in the machine, and we need to feed into the bigger picture, the bigger blueprint that the public entities should set. So yes, it's not just on the city or the state or the federal government, but we need them all working together and investing in these solutions to scale. And the nonprofits play a big role in that, but we cannot and will not solve homelessness on our own.
Understood. Councilor Rogers, I'll end with you. Obviously, from your perspective as an elected official, working with nonprofits and other groups.
Yeah, there's so much I want to say about this particular topic. I honestly think the biggest thing on my heart right now is to tell everybody stop it. This and this finger pointing and this and that, and they didn't do their part, and we've got to stop that. We need to all, I would love to get everybody in a room, elected officials, all the advocacy groups, people smarter than us that do this work every day, and actually listen to them. So government, city, state, federal government need to listen to the people who know the work. And we don't. We like to dictate to them what to do, and we don't look at our own processes. So I would love to get everybody in the room, and I feel like this doesn't happen enough. And I know that this happens in places like Houston, where these groups are having weekly meetings to coordinate. All right, we see a big encampment here. What are we going to do to support them? Not, okay, how are we going to sweep them? It's literally, let's get in, let's use all of our resources and do this. I just became the co-chair of the Homeless Coordinating Council. And I'd like to shake that up group. That group is everybody who has a hand in homelessness, all of the major entities, city councilors, county commissioners, APS, Peter even comes to those meetings, all of the folks who have a hand in homelessness. Let's get off of Zoom. Let's get in a room and let's do some work to align our systems, because that's what's not happening. And I'm increasingly frustrated with that meeting specifically, because we're not coordinating anything. And so I would like to shake it up there and really get us in a room to start pushing in the same direction. And it's all hands on deck, all hands on deck.
Very good. I appreciate it. Thank you, Councilor Rogers, Peter Kubra, Rachel Biggs. Appreciate you all for being here, and we'll talk again soon.